All right, going in. These are so good. I think I'd pay $20, maybe 22. One of the great things about steak fajitas is that everybody that's eating them can kind of choose their own adventure. The whole family's gonna love them, and your friends, especially when you see how easy this recipe is to make. And it only has 11 ingredients. So I'm gonna start by prepping the vegetables, because we're gonna be cooking these first. In fact, none of this is actually gonna cook on the stovetop today, so you can save your sponge and your splatter screen, because we're actually gonna be making all of this in a super hot oven. So I'm using 3 bell peppers, and I'm gonna cut them into 1/2-inch slices. And then when I cut bell peppers, I always just cut the planks. I sort of do a triangle. And just to keep things interesting, I always just try to get the stem intact. Just take any of those seeds out too. Whenever I hear fajitas, I always picture like the person walking in the restaurant with the steaming, sizzling cast iron. And then I have 3 garlic cloves that I'm just gonna slice thinly. And this is a great way for there to still be garlic presence within the meal, but if I were to mince it, it probably would have a tendency to burn while everything's in the oven. Because as I said, it's a hot oven. It's actually 475 degrees. Because we really want to mimic that char that the steak and vegetables typically get in that skillet when cooked on the stovetop. All right, now I'm going to slice this red onion into 1/2-inch thick rounds. So in order to do so, I'm just going to trim off the top and the bottom, the root and the stem. And then just make a tiny slice on the exterior just to help get that skin off. All right. So again, 1/2-inch thick rounds. Everything's going to be the same size, the peppers, the onion, and that way it'll cook evenly and at the same rate. So if they fall apart, that's totally fine. It's going to fall apart during cooking anyway. But as you can imagine, once these are cooked and caramelized, they're gonna be so soft and tender. So I'm gonna add some oil. I want a tablespoon of oil and some salt and pepper. I'm gonna do about a teaspoon each. And just give it a toss. And the best thing about this recipe, it's a 1-pan meal. That's it. So we're gonna cook the vegetables first, because I'm just gonna give it a toss right here on the sheet pan. Probably wondering how we're gonna do this on one sheet pan, but I promise you it's all gonna work out. All right, so you wanna make sure that the vegetables are in a single layer so that everything gets evenly charred during this first step in the oven. I've got an oven that preheated to 475 degrees, oven rack at the lower middle position, and I'm gonna cook the vegetables now for about 10 minutes until golden brown around the edges. All right, I got the steak for our steak fajitas, and I'm gonna be using flank steak today. But first I'm gonna make a spice rub. We got some chili powder here. I'm gonna do 1.5 tablespoons. All right, well that didn't fit. So I'm gonna do 4.5 teaspoons, which is the same as 1.5 tablespoons. It's that math, you know? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not counting out loud for you, I'm counting out loud for me, otherwise I'll forget. And then I've got the 1/2. All right. Now we're gonna use some brown sugar. And as you can imagine, the brown sugar is gonna help to provide a little bit of sweetness, but it's also going to help get that caramelization and promote some really nice browning. So you want a teaspoon of that, and 2 teaspoons of salt. And finally, 1 teaspoon of pepper. Just give this a mix. Okay, and then I've got the steak. So it's a flank steak. It's 1.5 pounds total. And first, before I put the rub on it, I'm actually gonna cut it into 3 pieces with the grain. I'm gonna pat it dry with some paper towels just to take away any moisture that might be hanging on there. It's gonna also help to get the rub to stick onto the steak better. All right, now put the rub all over on all the sides of the flank steak. And not only does this recipe take no time at all, I mean, it's gonna be done in under 30 minutes. There's only like 11 ingredients in it total. So it's a definite weeknight go-to. All right, I'm gonna wash up and then I'm gonna grab our vegetables. These are just where I want them. It's just getting lightly browned around the edges. And that was an important step because otherwise everything would kind of steam together. So as you can see, I just shifted everything over to one side of the pan. And I'm gonna put the steak down, just like so. Quickly wash up. So I'm gonna put this into the oven. Now, flank steak is best cooked to medium, and that's because if you were to cook it to medium rare, it might just be too chewy. So you wanna look for an internal temperature of 135 degrees. So I'm gonna put this baking sheet back in the oven for about 8 minutes until the meat registers 135 degrees and the vegetables are getting really nice and spotty brown. I wrapped some flour tortillas in some foil because nobody's getting cold tortillas in my house. So I'm gonna pull the steak out and vegetables and put this into the oven while the steak rests. Whoa. These vegetables, the steak, everything looks awesome. So I'm gonna transfer the vegetables to a platter. And the garlic held up really nicely, again, because we cut that into some slices. And remember, people eat with their eyes. I know it's one of those obnoxious sayings, but you know, even if it's just for you and a couple friends or your family, it's always fun to make things look a little extra special if you can. I'm gonna add a little lime juice to the vegetables just to kind of season them at this stage. All right, now, steak has to rest for about 5 minutes, uncovered, and then it's time to slice and assemble our fajitas. All right, got my warm tortillas. Just fan them out. And for the steaks, I'm gonna slice them again against the grain. So the grain's running this way, I'll be slicing it this way. And slice them pretty thin. A sharp knife is your friend here. No messing around with dull knives. Chef snap. Oh yeah. Got a couple tablespoons of chopped cilantro. Just put it all over everything. Yum, yum. I can hear your stomach growling. Mine's growling too. I'm gonna clean up real quick and then let's eat the fajitas. Look at this. All right, I'm gonna do a couple pieces of steak. Look how perfectly cooked that is. And I will do a little bit of everything on the top here. Get a little dollop or two. All right, going in. These are so good. The vegetables, super soft, caramelized even, ton of flavor, got that garlic in there. The steaks are so well cooked. And a little bit of sugar from the rub in there and some chili powder, so you do get a little bit of heat. Ton of flavor. Let me go in for one more bite. Steak fajitas, restaurant quality in my opinion. One pan, so fast, and so easy to make. Thanks for watching. The link for this recipe is in the description. And if you make this recipe, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. See you next time.